During our summer vacation, my wife Madalena and I stayed in a luxurious 5-star hotel. We had a room with a mini bar and a stunning sea view. The hotel grounds had a beautiful pool, everything was in pristine condition. Luxurious atmosphere, attentive staff, and plenty of amenities to suit all tastes. Madalena loved waking me up early in the morning before it got too hot and dragging me to the beach. We would stay there until noon, then return for lunch, nap in the room, and then head back to the beach in the evening. For the first 3 days, I enjoyed the warm sun, the soft sand, and the relaxing sound of the waves. It all felt like a much-needed break from our hectic lives. But soon the monotony began to drive me crazy. The days began to blend into one another, each one similar to the last. I tolerated one more day, hoping that something would change or I could get used to the routine. But then I just couldn't take it anymore. Despite the sunscreen, I still burned in some places, and the pain made it almost impossible to sleep at night. I was constantly tossing and turning, and the heat from the burns made me uncomfortable. When I offered to explore the city, or even just relax in my room, Madalena brushed me off, saying that she had come here to be at the sea, and that my complaints were ruining her vacation. She wanted a full beach vacation and was not going to interfere with my complaints. In the end, she insisted that we continue our vacation. I hated the sea passionately, the salty smell, the endless waves, the scorching sun. It all became unbearable. On one of the hottest days, I was pushed to the limit. Halfway to the beach, I stopped, turned around, and told Madalena that I would wait for her in her room. We had a big fight right there on the path to the beach. She accused me of being selfish, of not caring about her happiness, and I tried to explain how miserable I was becoming. Eventually, she continued on her way, and I returned to the hotel, happier than ever. I headed to our room, happy to be able to rest and finally be alone. When I entered the room, I was in for a surprise. The sounds of music playing on someone's headphones filled the room. It could be heard even from the hallway. There, at the mirror, stood a young woman, a maid. Judging by the dress lying carelessly on the floor, she was resting. The room looked tidy, and on the bed lay a towel in the shape of a swan, a symbol of her former hard work. When she noticed me, her face flushed, and she immediately began to apologize. "I'm sorry, sir," she said, fumbling with her dress, her cheeks still crimson. "I'll be right out." She quickly tried to gather her things, but I asked her what she was doing in our room. She froze for a moment, and then, avoiding my gaze, said quietly, "I just wanted to relax a little. You're not usually in the room at this time, so I thought it would be okay." I nodded, understanding. She looked at me with a mischievous glint in her eyes, and suddenly asked, "Do you want to relax too?" There was something playful and almost sassy in her voice. Before I could answer, she stepped closer, her movements bold and confident. She pushed me onto the bed, her playful smile making it impossible for me to resist. The room was even hotter than it was outside as she helped me remove my shirt. Her touch was gentle, but at the same time there was a sense of urgency in her actions. The heat was building between us, and I found myself giving myself over to the moment completely. There was something liberating about it, something that made me forget arguments, monotony, and sunburn. The next morning, Madalena didn't seem to notice anything out of the ordinary. She was eager to continue her beach routine, and I feigned illness so I wouldn't go. I watched her leave, and as soon as she was out of sight, began to anticipate the arrival of the maid. I lay there listening to the faint sound of the waves crashing on the shore in the distance. The hours dragged on slowly, but the anticipation made them more exciting than I'd experienced in years. The idea of doing something secret and forbidden was intoxicating. When the maid finally arrived, our gazes were full of unspoken words. She smiled at me as she closed the door, and I realized we both understood what was about to happen. She looked more relaxed this time. Her hair was loosely tucked back, and she moved with a confidence that said she had thought about it as much as I had. We sat down on the edge of the bed and talked for a few minutes, mostly about her work and the guests she had to deal with. I learned that her name was Isabella, and she spoke with a soft accent that made every word sound melodic. The more we talked, the more comfortable I felt around her, and soon we were drawn to each other again. This time it was different. It wasn't just about love, it was about tenderness. The way she touched my tanned skin, careful not to hurt me, and the way she kissed me gently, as if savoring every moment, made me realize it wasn't just about rebellion anymore. It was about connection, an escape from the mundane reality I was trapped in. She was giving me something I didn't even realize I needed. Afterward, we lay on the bed, the room filled with the warmth of the afternoon sun streaming through the curtains. She rested her head on my chest, and for a moment everything fell into place. I knew it couldn't last, that it was fleeting, temporary, but that only made me treasure it more. Eventually she had to leave, and I looked after her, feeling both satisfied and empty at the same time. The following days passed in a new routine. Madalena continued her excursions on the beach, completely unsuspecting, and I continued to stay at the hotel. With each meeting, Isabella and I grew closer. We began to talk more about ourselves, our dreams, our disappointments. She told me about her family in her hometown, how she came here to work to support them. I told her about my job, about feeling trapped in my own life, constantly doing what is expected of me and not really thinking about whether I want to do it. She listened with genuine interest, and I found myself opening up to her in a way I had never opened up to Madalena. One afternoon, as we lay in each other's arms, Isabella told me that she would be leaving soon. Her contract with the hotel was ending, and she planned to return home. The news hit me harder than I expected. I was used to her presence, the way she made me feel alive. The thought of her leaving left an emptiness in my chest. She looked at me, her eyes full of both sadness and determination, and told me that what we had was special because it couldn't last. It was a fleeting moment in time that we both needed, but now it was time to move on. Her words stayed with me long after she left the room that day. I knew she was right. That time we spent together was beautiful precisely because it was temporary. It gave me a glimpse of something else, something I had been missing. It wasn't just the passion or excitement. It was the fact that I felt seen, understood, and appreciated. As much as I wanted this to end, I knew I had to let her go. On Isabella's last day of work, we spent our last day together. We didn't talk much, nor did we need to. We both knew it was goodbye. As she left, she turned around to smile at me one last time and then disappeared. The room seemed even emptier without her, and I knew the next few days would be hard. But I also knew I had to face my life to find a way to make it meaningful again, even without her. After that day, I never went to the beach with Madalena again, but I also never saw Isabella. The maid and I had an unspoken understanding, and it ended as quietly as it had begun. It became the highlight of my days, one I remembered fondly but knew I could never repeat. I began to plan my days differently, trying to fill the void with something more than just stolen moments. The days stopped seeming monotonous, and the suffocating feeling I used to feel slowly began to fade away. I knew what I had done was wrong, but I couldn't deny that it had changed me. The excitement, the mystery, it all made me feel alive in a way I hadn't felt in a very long time. And now I had to find a way to keep that feeling alive.